All right. Thanks you so much to Sharia and the Open Data team for this great week of workshops. We're so excited to be part of it. My name is Jackie Bellando. I'm the program director at CUNY Tech Prep. And to get us started, I'm going to share a little bit about the program. Next slide, Edgardo. All right, so we're a year-long program for CUNY. If you're not familiar, CUNY stands for the City University of New York. Senior college students, so there's many colleges in the CUNY network, but we serve specifically undergraduate students from the 11 senior colleges at CUNY. We train them in full stack web development. In data science, folks pick a track, so you'll see a mix of both web development and data science projects that our fellows have worked on in the past year tonight or today. And yeah, overall, our fellows tend to be in their third or fourth year of study at their colleges, and we help them land internships in new grad tech data related roles after they leave the program. I'll put our website in the chat if you want to learn more, but for now, I'm going to pass it off to our first project team. Next slide, Edgardo. And our agenda. Which I guess, Edgardo, I guess I can read through that too. All right, so sorry about that. So we have 3 project areas to show y'all today. First is our Subway Surfers team. Second is our Slice Scout team. And then third is a group of class-based projects from this semester that all use New York City Open Data. All these projects do. Subway Surfers and Slice Scouts were created in the fall semester, fall 2024. And then the last 3 projects that you see are from the spring. So we'll start with Subway Surfers.
So our project is called Subway Surfers. You'll surely see why it was called that. Who is presenting it today? Myself and Arihant, who is in this Zoom meeting. We made this project in fall of 2024 for our capstone project of the data science program. So let's introduce ourselves first. So my name is Zara. I'm a senior at Hunter College. I'm studying computer science, math, and business. Arihant, if you want to introduce yourself.
Right. Yeah, my name is Arihant. I'm a junior at CCNY, majoring in CS. Yeah.
Great. So, why do we make this application? So we realized a lot of New Yorkers use the subway. So there are 472 subway stations in New York. There were over 1 billion rides taken in 2024 and up to 4 million riders a day in New York City. So the MTA and the subway system is very populated. A lot of New Yorkers see it every hour, every minute of the day. But what are we doing as a city to keep these millions upon millions of riders safe? So this is a news article from March 24, 2024, which is around a year ago exactly, where attacks in New York City transit are jumping a whopping 50% as subway murders keep on the rise. And it's not just subway murders, there are way more incidents that are on the climb. Arihant, if you want to touch upon a few of them.
Yeah. So what are we doing to keep the million, lots of people safe in New York City? Are we doing enough? Are we actually, spending all the resources that we have, all the data that we have, analyzing it in a way that we can derive perfect insights so that we can focus on these sort of crime spots? Because of course there's strengths in everything, and there's strengths in crime too. And through this project, we aim to explore that. So I think we're gonna go to the demo next.
Okay, so let's go to our demo. So we built this using Python and some machine learning libraries, and we hosted it on Streamlit. I'll explain some of the features. Let's start with the sidebar here. So we've gathered data from Open Data, and we are allowing our users to choose a certain date range that they want to see crime trends for. the most updated is up until September 30th, 2024. And let's say if the governor or some law enforcement want to analyze like the whole year's worth of trends, they can just by toggling this and bringing it all the way to the end. It does take a little bit of time to load it, but for like general users who are interested in like maybe what's happening in the last month or so, they can just toggle it and mess around with the dates and whatnot. Other things that they can do is choose the subway station that they are interested in knowing about, like the crimes that are happening around the subway station. They can choose a specific one. So for this one, I chose Lexington Ave, 63rd Street, which is a station that is near Hunter College. Another option that we gave for users is to modify the radius. So right now the radius is like 0.5 miles. So like what's happening in between like 63rd Street all the way up until maybe like 68th Street and down to Park Ave. And it tells you like what are the top 3 crimes within this radius. So it looks like it's grand larceny, petite larceny, and assault. And it also shows you what are the most active crime days within this month range from July 30th to September 30th. It would be like Thursdays are the most popular day for crimes to be committed. There are also like weekly crime trends. So we can see there was like an uptick on September 2nd with like 21 crimes occurring. It also shows like a pie chart. It's a lot of like visuals just for like people who are very like technical. Like we wanted this to be very accessible and open for people who just want to see and like get a quick picture of what's happening around them. Um, this is like station specific analyses. You can also do like citywide crime analysis if you're interested in knowing what's going around the whole city. So within like from July 30th to September 30th, this is like all the crime that has happened within the whole city. And you can also filter it by borough. So right now, all the boroughs have been selected. But if I was only interested in Manhattan, I would just take this off. And then it would show you like all the crimes that occurred in Manhattan only. And right now, it's telling you what are the top 3 crimes in the borough. And as I went over already, it's petite larceny, assault, and dangerous drugs in Manhattan. But yeah, this is essentially like this application offers a snapshot and it like helps keep New Yorkers informed of what's going on, and not even New Yorkers, but it's more so like when we were making this application, we wanted to direct it to like law enforcement and government officials because they're the ones who have the actual like political power and like influence to allocate these resources that we have as a city to our infrastructure and our transportation. So we want to ensure that they know what's going on and like to have this application to look back to. Okay, so the demo is like over unless someone
Also, just to clarify, we're using NYC Open Data Arrest dataset because we found out that it sort of has like about 250K rows. There's also another data set which is about NYC complaints data set, which we found to be like a lot of data. So that was like sort of too much for us to handle. So yeah, this is the data set that we're using for this dashboard. Yeah, so why Subway Surfers? Of course, the most common answer is Subway Surfers helps the regular public be aware of their surroundings. Um, People can actually go on there, look up their stations, and be careful, see what's happening around them, right? It's sort of like a hub spot for looking up all the crime history, all the stuff like that, so you know when to travel, what times are safe in near your area, or what times are not safe, and stuff like that. So it's definitely helpful for NYPD also. The local government officials, the MTA could also definitely benefit from the data-driven insights that we identify finding the crimes in these hub spots. Yeah, so we also did a little bit of machine learning modeling. So we tried to predict sort of a crime safety score for each of the neighborhoods. How we did that was using regression. And we got the latitude, longitudes, and stuff like that. And we also had latitude and longitude of the subway station entrances. So we tried to map it together and try to create a hotspot for relating the crimes and how near they are to each of the subway station. We achieved a MSE of 2.5, which is not incredibly great. But there's definitely room for improvement because mapping to longitude and latitude geospatial coordinates is kind of a complex topic, and running ML models on that. So that's definitely has room for improvement.
So, what do we envision for the future of Subway Surfers and the future of New York City? So, for Subway Surfers, we know that our app would be the most optimal if we could have a live data source that informed us of like most recent incidents. So, I don't know if you guys heard of like this app called Citizen, but citizens of New York City go on the app and report incidents that they see in real time. So, if we could get like an API endpoint or hit that data source and filter into our application so that we get the most recent stuff that's occurring. Because as you can see, our application was only up until September 30th of 2024, which is not very recent and not very helpful for where we are now, which is March 2025. So we would like to have a live data source, preferably from the people of New York City or maybe from the NYPD, so that our application is mostly up to date and very accurate of what's happening. And for the future of New York City, we hope that Subway Surfer enables us to be safer, more protected, and more informed of our environments, so that we can be less of like victims of crimes and more proactive in keeping each other safe, which is our first and foremost duty as New Yorkers to other New Yorkers. Bam. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation.
Thank you very much.
The next presentation is Slice Scout.
So here's the Slice Scout team. It's me, Matthew. I am the founder and full stack developer of the application. Jack, he is the full stack developer. Tor, lead backend developer. And Ray, the head of design and development. Sorry, I'm just moving around my Zoom window. Okay. So what is Slice Scout? Slice Scout is a community-driven web platform that helps New Yorkers find authentic 99-cent pizza slices in this post-COVID landscape where many traditionally cheap pizzas have raised their prices while maintaining their 99-cent pizza branding. We can think of it kind of as a Waze for pizza prices, as it's a real-time crowdsourced solution to track and verify actual slice prices across New York City's 5,000 plus pizzerias. So, why Slice Scout? We have a problem where the iconic 99-cent slice is becoming harder and harder to find as inflation pushes prices up, yet many shops retain their branding despite charging more. Market gap. No existing platform specifically tracks and verifies pizza slice prices in real time. Community need. Budget-conscious New Yorkers need a reliable way to find authentic, affordable pizza options. And cultural preservation. So this is helping to preserve the tradition of accessible, affordable pizza in New York City, which is something we've kind of come to be famous for. So how does it work? Real-time price tracking. Users can report and update current slice prices at pizza locations. We also have an interactive map. There's color-coded markers that show price categories. So $1, $1.50, $2, the common slice prices across New York City. A verification system. There's a community voting that ensures price accuracy. And price alerts. Users receive notifications about price changes at their favorite spots. And data visualization. This is something that we are working to add, heat maps that show price trends and affordable pizza density by neighborhood. So technical implementation. The front end was built with React with TypeScript. Styling, Chakra UI, which is a component library. For mapping, we use the GeoAppify integration for local services. And we use the New York City Open Data Restaurant dataset. And for our database, we use Postgres on Supabase for storing local location and price data. So, how we got our data? Source selection. We use I still don't know how to pronounce that, but I say DOME, New York City Restaurant Inspection Results dataset from New York City Open Data, because this dataset provided us with thousands of lines of data from almost every single restaurant that exists in New York City. Because for inspection results, they need to check every restaurant that exists. And that was kind of perfect for our use case to find every restaurant. And we leveraged the online data explorer to aggregate for relevant keywords such as pizza and 99-cent so that we could find exactly what we were looking for. And we reviewed related restaurant data sets available on New York City Open Data, but we ultimately decided to focus on the DOME data set for its relevance and plethora of useful data for our use case. We also enriched the dataset by adding custom columns like the price and hour into our SQL table. These modifications allowed us to tailor the data specifically for New York City pizza price tracking, rather. And here's a short demo. Unfortunately, it can't be done live, but we will do it with this video. Oh, sorry about that. There we go. This is our homepage. As you can see, there's a pizzeria map that you can look around. There's a contact us form for any issues that may occur on the homepage, conveniently right there. And as we go to the About page, it'll show our mission, what we offer, real-time map, user reports, our story, and meeting the development team. There's also a sign-in function so that you could save your favorite pizzerias and the prices that you have. Also to verify users, to make sure that they are real and their data is accurate. So you can put in your zip code and it will show you pizza near you. So little pizza icons will appear on your map showing 99-cent pizza spots around you. So the map will pan and show markers of the pizzeria locations that are in it. And when you click on them, you can vote on the slice price. So each user will be able to vote and see what's the most up-to-date price. So as you can see, you can even check the trend of pizza prices as it goes up or down so that you know before you go if your dollar will get you a 99-cent pizza slice. And if not, you will know. We also have a submission form. So as our data is not real time by default, users can request a new pizzeria location if one opens up and it's not already in our data set from New York City Open Data. So our whole motto is kind of keeping it crowdsourced so that people that are locally in their neighborhood, they know before anyone else does that a new pizza place just opened. So they can always add a pizza spot if they want. They can add the price data, anything that they see. And yes, thank you for listening. This was Slice Scout, and thank you. What's next for us? We wanted to connect the Google Maps API to get real-time reviews and price data as a baseline if no data exists, as well as images. We want to overhaul the price voting functionality to make it more user-friendly. We also wanted to add in components to allow the users to change and add the price and hours of locations. Right now, we can only change the prices. And map interactions. We want to add heat zones instead of markers so that you could use heat zones instead to see the density of cheap and affordable pizza prices so that you can know before you go. So thank you. That was Slice Scout.
Thank you, Matt. That was, again, another project created in the fall semester of our program. Those first two, Subway Surfers and Slice Scout were. And the next couple of projects were created this semester, some in the last week, where we introduced New York City Open Data in class, and we also looked at how to just import it into Google Sheets and start cleaning it. Some students have also not only used Google Sheets, but they were using tools like Tableau, tools like Looker Studio. So you're going to see a sample here. We had a lot of projects. Unfortunately, students do have class, so they can't be here to show all the great things they've done. But we have a great collection of 3 projects that I'll have teams share now of what they've been able to do in a very short period of time. So now I'll hand it over to the Police Incidents in New York City team.
So before we get started, I would like to thank everyone who helped organize this event. I worked on this project with Kira, Lucas, and Steven. To provide some context, we saw that there was an existing dashboard from the NYPD that used actually the open dataset on incidents, but they didn't link the demographic data to the incident reports. So we saw that we could do that, and we created some interesting visualizations using that data. I'll hand it off to Stephen for next slide.
All right. So the initial questions that we had during the project was how incidents have changed over time. Are there any incidents that are concentrated in specific boroughs? And if we made a heat map, how would it revealing like spatial patterns? But the incidents changed over time. We had a heat map that was grouped by zip code. So we had a crime rate or the crime cases by zip code that was grouped. We had a temporal analysis that was grouped by the precincts that are in the borough, like the precincts of Manhattan South, Manhattan North, Bronx, Queens South, Queens North, Brooklyn South, and Staten Island. And that was the initial questions that we had. So for the incidents that changed over time, we had the heat map that was grouped by the zip codes, and we had the temporal analysis that was grouped by the precincts, and we had the crime rate that was grouped by boroughs with the graph, and we're going to show that in the next slide. But right now, we see that in the first map, the one in the middle about the heat map, we see that most cases were actually in the Bronx, mostly specifically the zip code 10457 with 2,477 cases in the past 5 years, and the zip code with the least incidents was 11361 with only 90 cases in the last 5 years. And we saw that most incidents actually occur at the Patrol Borough Bronx, as compared to Staten Island with the least cases. And we could move to the next slide. So we found out that if you look in the bottom left of crime over time per borough, we saw that going into 2020 there was actually a decrease in crime, mostly due to the quarantine and COVID. And but slowly coming out of that, we had an increase in crime in 2021 and 2022, and it plateaued in 2023. But in 2024, there was an increase, but now is slightly decreasing. And we can see that the borough with the most amount of cases is the Bronx, and with the least amount of cases is Staten Island. Would also state that more of the population in New York City is actually in the Bronx as compared to Staten Island. So the graph would actually show that. But later on, we went by demographics, and we saw that the crime incidents by age for males would mostly vary from 16 to 41, with the highest actually being in like the mid-20s to like the late 30s. And for women was mostly the same thing from 18 to 31, with mostly between like in the mid late 20s. So the most people that were involved were mostly Black males, and with the incident cases, we're able to actually separate them by type of force that was used in those cases. And like we're actually found out that 53% of Black males was most recorded in those cases, as opposed to 0.2% of Native Americans. So the crime breakdown by gender and age is mostly males, ranging from as early as 18 to as late as 41, with the spike being in the mid-20s. And we were able to figure out that most of the cases that were noted are mostly from the Bronx, and most of the Black population is also in the Bronx. And you could check out our slide and tableau that we made with our information on that if you want to know more about it. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks. Here's the tableau, and you all can share the link in the chat So if anybody wants to explore this live, thank you very much, team. Next, we have Kyle, who will be talking about the New York City fires data set.
Hello. Hello. So the data set that I'm presenting is obviously about New York City fires. It goes from, I think it ranged from 2016 to 2024, about a year ago, 2024, this time last year. And it covers the leading causes of fires in all 5 boroughs and some of the areas outside the city as well. The reason why I got curious about this type of data was a lot of times you see fire trucks storming somewhere and never really see any fires. At least I rarely ever see any fires in the city. So I was curious to see actually how many fires in the city are caused. You could go to the next slide or screen share. So I broke it down by the first graph there. You break down each borough on the left-hand side, and then the overall code that the Bureau of Fire Investigation coded each category as. So these are like general categories. We have excluding other. The number one reason according to this data set for fires in New York City are incendiary purposes. Those are usually deliberate fires that are caused. It ranges in reasons. The chart right underneath that gives a more detailed description of the fires that are caused. Excluding preliminary investigation only, which I can only assume means those are fires that are still under investigation. Again, you can see that incendiary and smoking are the top 2, which I also thought that the smoking reason was a really interesting one, because who knew that? I mean, we're always told as kids that cigarettes and cigars can cause a fire, but who knew that according to the data, that's an actual reason? And if you actually click on the smoking one on the fire causes, the whole visualization will change, and it'll now only focus on the smoking cigarette and cigar category. And if you go over to the months, why that is, it could be during the warmer months in like the summer and the spring. Nobody wants to smoke indoors, so they all head outside. It's just very interesting to show that during the winter, that's when most fires are caused by smoking. And then the chart next to it also shows you fires by day. Again, this is still for smoking. If you unclick the smoking chart and scroll back over to the fires by day, scroll back to the fire, you can see that on average, each day in New York City, it's about the same amount of fires caused per day throughout the week. So that tells you that on an average, on any day in the city, there's multiple fires happening somewhere in the city, all 5 boroughs, which is pretty interesting. So it's a pretty consistent trend across the city that there's a fire going on. Fires are going on in the city. The 2 charts on the bottom, I focused those mostly on incendiary purposes because I did think it was pretty interesting that a deliberate fire being caused is the reason. Scroll all the way to the left, and these are your top incendiary causes. You have your general one at the top, but some of these are pretty interesting, like the one on the bottom, incendiary by suicide or incendiary by self-immolation. You even have an attempted arson category. So I found this pretty interesting that there are various reasons why people start fires deliberately, and some of them are pretty shocking to me. Ignitable liquid as was one of them, and then the next chart over just filters those by borough so you can see. Brooklyn tends to be, for most of the categories, Brooklyn tends to be the highest, tends to be the leading borough, and I believe that is because Brooklyn is, I think, the most population dense borough in the city. I'm not too sure about that one, but I believe it is. And it would make sense that it would that all these reasons would happen in Brooklyn. I live in Brooklyn myself, so you know, it is pretty interesting. But yeah, this is my visualization, but that's all I have for you is this one slide. But the link I'll post in the chat if you guys want to check it out. Yeah.
Thank you, Kyle. Yeah, and this was done in Looker Studio,
Yeah,
correct?
Google Looker Studio, yeah.
All right.
Which is a little more interactive than Tableau, I think, but it's okay.
Yep. Thank you very much, Kyle. Again, that was one of the, or you've seen two of the projects that were done by our students this semester, looking at New York City open data and working with different data tools that they're interested in. And this next project, the student is not available to show it to you live, but I'll try to do it some justice by just walking through it right now. This project was created by Miguel Luna, and it explored the data set for leading causes of death in New York City. And this is a project that was actually fully done in Google Sheets. And I'll show their Google Sheet in a second. They actually were able to import the data directly into Google Sheets using their Socrata APIs, and then able to do the analysis and charts directly in it. But there are some insights that they collected from the data, and it's just for a couple of years, the data set that's available on New York City Open Data. But some of the things that they found were kind of disparities in leading causes of death amongst the sexes. So they found that certain kinds of fatal unknown cancers were observed only in women, where men would have 0 deaths from that particular type of cancer. Also, an interesting find was that the only reported deaths due to assault and homicide were for men. No women were being reported as dying from an assault or homicide, which seems very strange, but it was something that was in the data there. And then the only deaths with Alzheimer's was for women as well. There were none for men reported in the data set. So I'll open up this Google Sheet very quickly where you'll be able to see the data. And I'll actually start at the end here. So the data set was actually imported using, again, those Socrata APIs to pull the data directly into the Google Sheet. This is something we looked at in CTP. And then they were able to do a lot of the analysis. So they were looking at deaths by the cause and the sexes, and they were able to summarize that data here. They also did some chartings on the number of deaths per year. I believe for 2007, there's some incomplete data there, but for 2008 to 2014, it looks pretty consistent, the number of deaths being reported. And then causes of death. Here, this chart is also very interesting because we often hear that heart disease is a leading cause of deaths, and we could see that from the data that is true for New York City, right? Diseases of heart, then there's malignant neoblastoma, and then other causes kind of split up the rest of the causes of death. And then they also did a chart for deaths by gender, and here it is pretty even here in the reported data set as well. So men and women are dying at the same rate. And then there's death by race and ethnicity, and the breakdown is here for that. Again, all of this was done in Google Sheets, just pulling that data directly in there using the import data function in Google Sheets. And I believe Excel has something similar. And yeah, that was that project. And we had many more. Unfortunately, we didn't have the the time or the students weren't available to show all of the work that they did. But I'd like to thank you all for participating today. And since we have some time, if there's any questions, the students that worked on these projects are here. So if you have any questions about the tools they use, the insights they found, yeah, we would welcome questions now. Yeah, Jackie, we have a question about the CTP program itself. Do admissions open in winter 2026? Jackie, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. So yes, our admissions open annually, usually in January. If you go to our website, I can actually put the direct link in the chat. You can fill out our interest form and we'll send you the link to the application when we open it, probably in January, early January 2026. But great question. Thanks for being interested in the program.
Fanny had a question if any of our students are working on real estate data. Not in my sections of the class. I think our other instructor had to leave who might have insight on that. But if you connect with us, we can definitely find that out for you. Our program accepts over 170 students. So I could definitely check in with the other instructors to see if any that's of interest to you. And Jackie, thank you for sharing the information about our programs application. So if you know any students in the City University system, let them know about our program. We'd love to have them apply.
Hey, I'm Jazzy at BetaNYC. Great presentations all around. I know there's a lot of speakers, but I'd love to ask, if you were thinking about where you were when you started out with working in open data and just learning about it, what tips and tricks would you recommend to folks and students that are just starting out, or any fun facts?
Yeah, I'll open that up to students. I know for many of them, we introduced them in class, but I know many of our students have actually known about it or learned through other avenues. So maybe you all can share where you learned about it and what's it like working with the data.
I learned about open data actually just this past week in my CTP class. My instructor was Zach. I think he was on the meeting earlier. I think he had to leave, but he presented it to us, and I thought it was pretty interesting because I do live in New York City, so getting access to this various types of data, it's not just it's a limited amount. It's a lot of stuff on there, and just you can get insights of your own city that you live in. So I thought that was pretty cool. One of the reasons why I went with the data set that I chose.
Thanks, Kyle. Anybody else want to share? Ibrahim, I think you're done.
Yeah, we also learned it in the same as Kyle because we're in the same class, and we also learned it. But I would say like a tip would be to just jump in, try figure it out for yourself. Do as much as you want to, and learn about it. You could go to Google and YouTube, you watch videos about it, and yeah, that's what we did.
And also, like, we messed around with SQL and Tableau and Sheets a lot, and we figured out like stuff we didn't know we could do before, like geocoding and reverse geocoding, and so that was a pretty fun process.
Yeah, nice. I'll say personally for myself, I think maybe over 10 years ago, or I was working on a project looking at restaurant data. And at the time, I did also want to geolocate it. I wanted to pin those on a map and have a rating system, right? Think like Yelp, but different or better or worse, who knows? Yeah, and that was my experience. And I think like many of the students have seen, the data is really great. There's a lot of it, but there's often issues, right? Either data entry errors or missing data. And so those are challenges that you have to work on, and you have to figure out how to handle those cases. Was it just an anomaly, or is it something that is fixable? And then the other aspect, like one of the teams mentioned here, is how do you, since these data sets keep growing, how do you set up your infrastructure to keep ingesting that data, right? So you have more up-to-date data, right? So especially with the restaurant data, restaurants close all the time, either permanently or temporarily, especially due to those health inspections. So you need to kind of keep bringing that data in and set up a pipeline to do that. But yeah, we've seen students do that. I know they're not really talking about that right now, but they definitely worked on those issues as well. We have a question from Jason about the New York City fire data set. How did you gather the data? And did you use any machine learning?
No, I didn't use any machine learning. The data set was already compiled by NYC Open Data. Their Bureau of Fire Investigation, to be specific, I think is the city bureau that collected the data. I didn't use any machine learning. All I did was import it into Google's Looker Studio, and I had to work with it and manipulate it myself. Some of the columns in the charts were not provided by the data set, so I had to manually add those myself.
And Jackie, any final words?
I don't think so. Big thank you to everyone at Open Data Week, BetaNYC, the mayor's office for putting this together. I know it's months and months worth of work to put on all these events, and big shout out to Zachary Bader, who's on our CTP advisory board, for introducing us to the opportunity to be part of Open Data Week. Thank you so much to our moderator in the room, Sharia. I know you were part of CUNY Tech Prep. It was great to see you and learn about your work. And yeah, again, if you want to learn about the program, about our work, we're cunytechprep.org. Check us out, share us with folks you know at CUNY. And yeah, I hope you all enjoy the week at Open Data Week.